Hey, everybody. Welcome to SafeDefend Live. We're here with a panel of experts, Phil and I, to talk about school safety, what's going on in the world, and things you can do every week to make the kids in your school safer.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to introduce everybody that's joining us today here in a second, but all you got to do is turn the TV on or look at your smartphone or go anywhere you want. And unfortunately, we see on a daily basis active shooter situations or things where our children or our employees, our spouses, the people we love, the people we care about are put into danger. And unfortunately, it's a problem that's getting worse and not better. Now, we're joined today by SafeDefend. We have the founder of SafeDefend with us, Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, good morning.
We got the director of training, Doug. Hey, Doug. Welcome.
Good morning.
And the vice president of the catch-all, the guy that does everything, Rusty.
Look at that hair.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the whole football. I mean, he's cheering for an under 500 football team right now, but I digress.
But he's faithful.
But he is faithful. He's a real fan.
He's a fan.
And he's also the one that has his office put together. He's the only one with his office put together. So,
hey, Rusty. Yeah, SafeDefend located in the Kansas City area. A great company. We're very privileged to work with SafeDefend in a consulting capacity. And we wanted to start. We're going to be doing a weekly Facebook Live, and then we'll be putting these on the SafeDefend YouTube page as well. What we hope to get out of this is just good conversation about how you can make your schools, your workplace safer. SafeDefend are leading experts in this area. They work with they have almost 100,000 folks that are protected by their program right now across the country and growing daily. This is what they do. This is their passion. The reason why Jeff started this company was he is a school administrator for public schools and just saw that, hey, I'm tired of this. We got to do better. And they went out and cast a vision and launched SafeDefend and are doing great work. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit, Dave.
Well, let's do this. Jeff, why don't you talk about the Foundation of SafeDefend, what you do, and what you see as the biggest challenge for schools out there today?
Yeah, absolutely. SafeDefend was founded shortly after the Sandy Hook tragedy. I really took a look and to say, hey, look, what could we do better? My school that at the time that I was at was probably at least as well as protected as Sandy Hook, and maybe even not as good, not as well protected. So realized that there was a big issue in keeping our staff and students alive. It really came down to three critical points. One, law enforcement just can't get there fast enough. We just can't get law enforcement there in time. Two, the bad guy is already in the building. It's going to be somebody that knows how to get in the building or somebody who's probably supposed to be there. And three, we're really on our own until law enforcement is able to get there. So how could we address those three critical areas where no one else was addressing them? What could we do to keep staff and students alive, help them manage that crisis, get law enforcement where they needed to be as quickly as possible? And that's really was the epicenter and the founding tenets of SafeDefend.
Doug, talk a little about Doug's a career law enforcement officer. Doug, talk a little bit about, from your perspective as the director of training, what do you see, kind of tailgating off what Jeff just said, what do you see are the most critical components? Because most schools have resource officers, right? How do you see SafeDefend working with those resource officers to help them? And as Jeff said, buying time, if you will, to make us as safe as we can until the reinforcements get there. Kind of talk us through that as director of training.
Yeah, so I was in law enforcement for 20 years. I ran a police academy for 3.5 years. And during that time, it encompassed Sandy Hook, and I received a lot of training on active shooters. And, Jeff and I had a conversation back in 2013. And one of the things is that in law enforcement, there's this notion, hey, we're going to get there, we're going to solve the problem. But as we keep seeing, and you even see it in the latest shooting in Ohio in the mall, law enforcement was there as the suspect was leaving the building. So he had already done all his damage. And so we have not expedited the response to law enforcement so they know exactly where to go in these large buildings. They know which exits which entrances are the ones that they should utilize in order to access that building. We do this for fire. We don't use our phones for fire. And when you pull that fire station, it lets the fire department know exactly where they need to be in the building and where the best entrance is. That's what schools need to start doing to expedite the situation. When you look at the shooting in Arlington, one of the things that was very interesting was the school resource officer was in the building at the time. The suspect on the second floor was able to leave the building, get in his car, and leave the parking lot before the school resource officer ever found out where he needed to go in that building, because using your phone to contact police is too slow. And if you're on the phone with the police, you're not putting that building on lockdown, and you're not protecting your students by getting your classroom shut and the lights out and all that sort of stuff. SafeDefend is a single stage activation. You put your finger down, all of those things are taken care of for you. All you have to do is shut your door, get your lights out, and get those students in that safer corner.
And I want to point this out. We do see ourselves as teammates of the school resource officers. I mean, they're boots on the ground. They're in the building. We're there to help them effectively do their job, to keep all the good people in the building safe and to locate the bad guy, right? And to neutralize the bad guy.
Yeah, the SafeDefend works hand in hand with the school resource officer. One of the great things is that when a teacher activates the system or anybody activates the system, alarms are going off throughout the whole building so that all the students know to clear the hallway. Now the school resource officer within 2 to 3 seconds is getting a text telling him which classroom he needs to respond to. He's got clear hallways. He's got no obstructions, and he knows that anybody he sees in that hallway is somebody that is a potential threat. And so that enables him to reduce the amount of time it takes him to respond and how to mentally prepare for that situation.
Now I want to ask you, Doug, you guys have a threefold process, what I understand. So how important is the training you give to the organization to build the confidence of your teachers in the system, more importantly, in how to defend their classroom and protect their students?
One of the most important things that people don't understand is we don't train teachers to go after the shooter. That is nothing that teachers should be dealing with. If we can eliminate all potential targets by getting them locked on the other side of a door, then we don't have to worry about what the shooter's doing in the hallways. And so in Idaho, they had some recent study that showed that there has been the safest place for students is behind a locked classroom door. The FBI shows this as well, because no interior door has ever been breached by an active shooter. They've gotten through a window, but they haven't gotten through that door. So all you really need to do is get that door locked and make sure that nobody unlocks that door. We call that threshold protection. So if a teacher can get the lights out, get the students out of sight in the safer corner, and get that door locked, then law enforcement can respond and do their job. We don't need teachers trying to take out the bad guys. We need each individual teacher to protect their 20 students in the school, and that way the law enforcement can respond and do their jobs.
As the husband of an educator, one of the things that every time I see this, it hits close to home for me, just worrying about, all the great teachers, the educators that are out there. They're there to simply teach. They want to work with our youth. If they wanted to go sign up to be a law enforcement officer, they would have done that, right? I mean, so I think that's a great explanation, Doug, of why we want them to be in a secure place, safe. Let the good guys get there and do their job, and eliminate the target. Rusty, you spend a lot of time talking to current clients all over the country that have this system implemented in their buildings. Share a couple of, if you can, just share a few conversations or stories that you've had with folks that actually have this in the building on how SafeDefend's made them feel, what's it done for them and for the great people that are inside those buildings.
Well, Phil, honestly, when we look at all these tragedies that continue to happen, we can't stop them from happening, but we can certainly mitigate the loss of life. And when we talk about saving lives when seconds count, that's what the SafeDefend system can do. So many of our teachers are familiar, and staff members and most folks are familiar with run, hide, fight. The problem is, how do you know which one to do? And by the time you figured that out, it may be too late. So everything that we put in place we don't have minutes, we don't have hours. This is not a fire drill or a tornado. We literally have seconds. I think 60-70% of the active shooter tragedies are over in 3 minutes. So we don't have minutes, we literally have seconds. So I think the feedback that I get from a lot of the schools that we've worked with over the years is just the staff knowing that they have a plan in place for the unthinkable is very empowering. It's almost a calming effect for the staff members. It gives them confidence. The kids have confidence in their staff and their teachers that they have a plan in place. And I think parents are so thankful for their school board members and their leadership and the administrators that they've taken the time to make things better. We're able to work with each school district that we have and really enhance what they currently have in place. And once the law enforcement, we spend a lot of time working with local law enforcement and the school resource officers. They love the SafeDefend system because within a matter of seconds, they know where the epicenter is within the building, the exact location, which in turn enables the staff members to make that right decision. Do I run? Do I hide? Do I fight? So I think the overall feedback that I get is just that it empowers the staff to know they have a plan in place for the unthinkable. And parents are so thankful that their kids are protected, just like we want our law enforcement officers to be able to come home at night. The same thing with our staff and our teachers. So, and especially our kids.
Yeah, Jeff, what do you we talked a little about kind of the why SafeDefend is here. What do you talk about some of the things that are upcoming or some of the things that you think, just in your conversations with people out? I know you were just out in Nevada here recently. A lot of good things happening in Nevada with SafeDefend right now. Talk to me a little bit about where you see the next 12, 24, 36 months of solving this problem or continuing to work to solve this problem. What's got to happen?
Yeah, so SafeDefend, we're approaching 9 years in business. So most of the companies that have been in this space have come and gone, and we've been able to maintain a consistent track record and be successful based on always adapting, listening to our clients, finding out really what those improvements are going to need to be. As we move forward, we're constantly evaluating our current system. We're always working to find ways to improve, new product development. We're really at a point now where our system, especially coming up the next year, we're going to have some pretty major work around our current system and really be rolling out basically a brand new system in the next year that is really going to allow for ease of use at a large scale, really going to be super user friendly, super client friendly, super staff friendly, additional products that are going to be able to blend into the school environment, be able to really be on the cutting edge of notification to not only the people that are in the text and email alerts, but soon we're moving towards having notification that actually can go out over the loudspeaker that not only tells people that there's an issue, but gives them also the exact location within that. So we've got some really exciting things coming out on the forefront. And I'll tell you, we learn every time we put our system in to a new client, to a new school, because everyone's a little bit different. We're taking all that feedback and we're constantly evolving. And that's why we're still here today when most of them have come and gone.
Yeah, and I think too, Russ, a bit about, school is the focus, obviously. Unfortunately, it's a soft target. We all know that. But we're seeing more and more private businesses and government entities outside of schools that are looking to SafeDefend to help make their people safer. Talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, we kind of started, like Jeff said, as a former principal, as a way to keep our kids safe in the classroom, right? Well, unfortunately, these tragedies don't just happen in schools, as we know. You turn on the news every day, like Doug said. But we do have our system in hospitals, in libraries, in courthouses. We have city halls. We have corporations. We have factories, plants, manufacturing locations. So all those same principles of helping to prepare, notify, and protect our staff members, our employees is valuable. And again, I think it's really empowering to me to go in and talk to these folks once they've done the training with Doug and they've done a drill and they see how fast our system works and how quickly it notifies them. It just empowers them again, just like it does the teachers and staff members. But these tragedies just don't happen in schools, as we know. It can happen anywhere.
Doug, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, so OSHA has something called the General Duty to Warn Clause. It was kind of a policy that was drafted in the 1970s, and it basically says that businesses have an obligation to warn their employees of a recognized hazard, which is why you have things like fire alarms and chemical spill alerts and tornadoes and things like that, because we've recognized that those are things that have happened. Over the years, the policy hasn't changed, but the courts have interpreted it that employers have an obligation to notify their employees when there's a hostile intruder in the building. There's some major lawsuits, companies like 3M, McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed Martin, Kraft Foods, that all have had active shooter situations. And the unfortunate thing for them was they had the ability at the front to call 911, but nobody was able to notify employees across the plant floor and throughout the broader building that there was a threat. And that's one of the things that SafeDefend satisfies, is that general duty to warn. We don't hear of lawsuits that happen when buildings catch on fire because we have fire alarms and everybody has been alerted, and therefore it becomes your personal responsibility to protect yourself. And so only under gross negligence are employers sued in those situations, which is extremely rare. Well, unfortunately, in active shooter situations, we haven't gone full circle yet and done that notification, and SafeDefend will satisfy that for the employers, government buildings, and all the other sort of public access areas. The only obligation you have in an active shooter situation is to alert the people within the building that they're under threat.
That's a great point. I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. I think, we look around. I know Dave and I, we work with another great organization that unfortunately, was it 2 years ago? Has it been 2 years? This active shooter over in Hawaii.
Yes.
Was it 2 years ago? And I think, you look at military bases, and this is something that Jeff and I had a conversation about last week. I think it was last week, Jeff. But, people look at military bases and they go, why would military bases need something like this? They got all those guns. They got all those trained warriors, right? Well, the reality is military bases are small cities, right? I mean, that's what they are.
People aren't all walking around armed up all over the base. Let's just be clear.
Let's be clear about that.
John Wayne didn't walk around with the AR-15.
Yeah, it's just like it is. It's just like it is in every community in the world. You have law enforcement with your brave MPs or SPs out there, depending on what branch of service you're in, is what they call you. But at the end of the day, they're law enforcement, right? They're there to protect the assets and the people on those bases. You have schools, you have churches, you have grocery stores, you have gyms. You have all the same stuff that you do in every community in the world. And so, I think you're going to continue. Unfortunately, we've seen more and more of that. I know there's been a lot of stuff at some Army installations around the country, stateside. Recruiting stations. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that I think we're going to continue to see. I go to the Veterans Hospital in Oklahoma City quite often as a patient and also as a volunteer. And I'm telling you right now, I mean, you want to talk about a soft target. That's a soft target. And and it's something that we've got to be conscious of. It's unfortunate that we got to think about these kind of things, that we got to talk about these kind of things, right? In our schools and in our libraries and then, wherever, our churches, unfortunately churches, we've seen countless examples where active shooters going into church buildings. And so the threat's real, the threat's everywhere. I think, we've got to continue to educate. We talk about all the time, the greatest responsibility we have is to educate people about how they can be the most safe they can be as they live their lives. We don't have the alternative of just shutting down. Unfortunately, and we've seen that in other areas of our life, and we've seen the outcome of that when we just teach people to hide. Unfortunately, a lot of times bad things happen on the other side, but we've got to have the ability to prepare people to act appropriately. God forbid they're ever put in that situation. So, Jeff, last question I've got today, and I'll turn it over to Dave to wrap up. You guys talk to a lot of, I'm going to go back to the schools for a second. You talk to a lot of superintendents of schools all over. What's the number one barrier that prevents schools from putting a system like SafeDefend in and allowing it to go to work?
Well, I think overall the number one barrier is the challenge of the budget, right? They're always having a limited amount of funds. There's a lot of entities competing for those funds, and there's a lot of priorities in a district, whether it's a small district, large district. There's always a lot of priorities. So, the budget, is always a challenge for any anybody that wants to get into the school side of things. I will tell you. We're seeing more and more that safety is the highest priority. at the school level. It is higher than really anything else, and that wasn't the case when we really started even. But that is safety. If it's not the number one, it's the number two. So we're seeing more and more of a shift to really understanding, be able to prioritize. And when that happens, then you're able to say, okay, look, I know how much money I have. Now let's prioritize what we need. The great thing about SafeDefend is it's going to fit any budget as well. So even when you have a limited amount of funds, if we can get the infrastructure in place, we can create a zone system in place. Then as the budget for the next year comes around, or as additional monies become available, it becomes super easy to expand and increase the effectiveness of the solution, as well as the feeling of safety within the buildings. So our system really is going to blend so well, even with those budgetary restraints that sometimes present themselves. Beyond that, it is really hard to say that this doesn't make sense.
Right.
We really don't get the objection that no, that doesn't fit in our safety protocols. Now maybe there's some other things they want to do first, but we really are. The main challenge is just for a district to be able to prioritize getting that budget to get them the level of safety that they need.
Dave, if you would for a second, right now there are funds out there that the government's making available that would apply to this, right? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, 100%. So ARP funding, there is a specific allotment for funds for schools. If you're an administrator watching this, if you don't understand that process, you need help, let us know. We can walk you through that process. There are projects in every state right now that are being funded through ARP funds. And let's focus on infrastructure that protects kids. Things that protect kids, protect our military, make things easier. There's a good portion that needs to be spent for that. And the reality of safety, and this is what I love about it, I'm going to be honest with you, it reduces that initial timeline, right? Right now, if something happens, somebody picks up a phone, calls somebody, they're trying to describe what's going on in the fog and friction of war, and that's not going to happen. Listen to a combat guy who's been there. When you're being shot at, if you don't have a quick, easy way to notify people, it's not going to work. With SafeDefend, you put your finger on the alarm, it triggers it where you are. The police officer gets a notification of exactly where that alarm went off. They know exactly where the shooter is, and they don't have to think about it. The team shows up, the SRO is running to the fight and not trying to figure out where it is. The TAC team shows up outside. They know exactly which door to enter. You have just reduced the timeline from 3 minutes to 15 seconds to get people to the right place.
Well, and I think, we talk about this a lot and kind of echo what Dave's saying. Guys that, we unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, been in those kind of situations in the military. Intelligence is a big thing.
Huge.
Knowing where to go, what you're facing, as much data as you can get so you can respond appropriately is critical in these kind of situations. And I've always thought in my mind, and I'm really simplifying it, SafeDefend's that intel. They're that intel to help you go and do your job the best you can. It's good to know when you're going in a fight. Are you going in a knife fight or are you going in a gunfight, right? It's good to know. And so you want to know as much as you can going into that situation. It allows them to save the lives inside the building. It also allows our very brave law enforcement officers to be as safe as possible when they're going into that situation. So it's a fabulous tool. To put a bow on this first, we want to remind everybody we'll be doing these every Friday at 9:30. Again, go visit SafeDefend's Facebook page. Go to their website, safedefend.com. Check it out. Learn more about it. You have questions, reach out to any of them on the board. Jeff, Doug, Rusty, any of the folks. Dan, a great resource. Dan got married. I still don't know how he pulled that off, but Dan got married to a woman. They're on their honeymoon right now, but Dan will be joining us. And then we're also going to have folks that have actually on the other side of it that use SafeDefend, that have put it into their facilities, into their building, and get their perspective on what this has meant to them. So we invite you to join us every Friday at 9:30 Central Time. Be looking for those notifications, and we really want to see your questions. We want you guys to ask those questions. We've done these for a long time with our own company and with other entities, and I'll tell you, as time goes by, there'll be more and more questions, and that's what we want. We want to get the questions from you so we can get you answers right away. So,
just one last thing I'd like to just share. Teachers don't necessarily feel unsafe, but they do feel vulnerable. There's no other system like SafeDefend that takes that vulnerability away. We empower them to be able to respond. It brings peace of mind to not only that building, but that community as well. Parents sending their kids to the school. There's no other system that's as comprehensive and does what we do. So we're excited to start sharing more about us on these events and be a part of it, and happy to answer any questions or take any thoughts that might come up from anybody that needs some more information.
We want to be a resource, right? We want people to ask questions. And, good solutions start with good communication. So if you are, like Jeff said, if you're a building administrator, if you're an SRO out there, if you're a chief of police,
If you're a parent,
if you're a teacher, it doesn't matter who you are. Reach out to us. We want to help you get the resources you need and start that conversation.
Phones are ringing off the hook. So
yeah, they are. I like that. That's good. That's a good sign when the phone's ringing.
So Jeff, Doug, Rusty, thanks for your time today. With that, this is the SafeDefend Live. We'll be doing every week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
We are out of here.
All right.